We provide student funding to students across the UK. We need to be accessible to everybody, so people from all walks of life we need to use. We want to invest in their future, and so we need to make sure we're providing really good customer journeys. It's easy to use, we're taking stress away from people. If we can help people invest in their future, then ultimately that should be good for the UK. Every year we will assess applications for about 2 million either new or returning customers.
Can we just dig a little deeper into the specific challenges you were facing as you moved towards your connected student 360?
We're not just talking about the bits and bytes of some software, we're talking about the engagement of ourselves as an organisation with our customers to enable that customer success.
So Susan, do you want to tell us a little bit about your role and your journey to digital?
Yes, okay. So I'll give you a little bit of background to me. So I've worked in IT for many years. I confessed it was since 1989, mostly in the financial sector. So I know you're not a fan.
Oh no! Never mind.
And in that time, I spent a lot of that time actually starting off centres of excellence, so building them up and building that maturity in other companies. And 2 years ago, I joined Student Loan Company to do something similar for MuleSoft as head of enterprise integration. So I'm sure many Scottish people or any UK people know what Student Loan Company is, but I'll just give you a bit of a background to what we do. And I've got some, excuse me for my notes, but I'm a bit old, so I need to have some memory aids. So Student Loan Company is a UK public sector organisation, and we provide student funding to students across the UK, and as you know, we've got devolved government, so we've got different rules and different things that we have to support throughout. So we support our students through the journey of applying for a loan, assessing them, paying out the loan or paying for tuition or whatever, and then doing the repay at the end. And just to give you a bit of a view of the size, because I was staggered when I joined SLC to just understand how much money we were sort of that was in our loan book. So we've got about 8.5 million customers, and our loan book is around 178 billion pounds. And every year we will assess applications for about 2 million either new or returning customers. And we receive about 6 million calls annually. So that gives you a bit of a flavour of our size. So I think just to sort of take a step and talk about what digital innovation, what I think about when I think about digital innovation and what we should be delivering for our customers, it's really making sure that we can provide a channel of choice to customers who want to come and use our services. And as you can imagine, we've got quite a young demographic, so we're actually serving customers who expect to be able to interact with us digitally and have that fully connected experience. We need to be accessible to everybody, so people from all walks of life we need to use. We want to invest in their future and get an education. So we need to make sure we're providing really good customer journeys. It's easy to use, we're taking stress away from people. And really, when we think about it, if we can help people invest in their future, then ultimately that should be good for the UK future economy. We want intuitive, seamless services that are aligned to great customer journeys. We need to consider how much we need to be very economical in the way that we're using money. It's taxpayers' money. We need to make sure we're spending that money well. We've got quite important stakeholders that we need to satisfy. And then ultimately, it's also about how we can deliver really good systems for our internal staff, because we've spoken about this in some of the other discussions, but what we want to do is make sure that our staff can be doing value added work and can be actually giving a really great service to customers. So, that's obviously a journey that we're on, but the more value add we can do, the better service we can give our customers. That's what we're looking to do. And really those aspects there align to SLC's strategic business objectives. And there's 5 of those, and it's all about giving an outstanding customer experience, to be leaner and better and do more for less. And we've got cost of living crisis. We're not being handed lots of money to do things, so we need to make sure we're doing the right things, and that we can deliver good systems that we're to the point about maintainability. We're not spending lots of money maintaining them. We can keep delivering more. We need to be an enabler of opportunity, so it goes back to that. How accessible are we to people that want to invest in the future? We have to be a trusted delivery partner. We're doing, we've got a lot of money that we're managing. We need to be trusted to do that, and we want to be a great place to work. So public sector, you will know about this. We can struggle sometimes to keep staff, to have staff retention. We can't always pay the salaries that private sectors can. So it's all about how do we make a really good work experience for people so that they want to continue to work. So just a bit of an overview of what my role is in a nutshell. So I work in an area where we're sort of managing a lot of the new technologies that have come in. So Salesforce, MuleSoft, Alfresco, Okta, various different new technologies, and we have set ourselves up as a group of centres of excellence. So I manage the Enterprise Integration Centre of Excellence, which is looking after the MuleSoft solution, and that's really about making sure that we've got the right people and the right processes in place, and we've got this team where we empower the people in our team. We've got a great sense of ownership, and what we're really trying to do is say, like, my team is the guardian of MuleSoft. So let's make sure we're doing the right thing with MuleSoft. We're not introducing technical debt. Sometimes that could be being a little bit tough with projects, because projects always want to get things delivered as quickly as possible, but make sure we're doing the right thing, that we're continually improving, and that we're sharing knowledge. So that's what my role is. That's what I've been doing for the last 2 years.
Sounds like a big job, Susan. You've been doing a lot.
I'm ably assisted by Maureen, my delivery manager, and I've got a good team of people, so we're all in it together.
Can we just dig a little deeper into the specific challenges you were facing as you moved towards your connected student 360?
Yeah, so to kind of go back on this, and I'm now talking about things that happened before I joined SLC, but I think round about 2019, SLC started looking at the business strategy and their technology and how they were set up and how they could set themselves up for success. And really identified that having that, with lots of tightly coupled, monolithic, huge systems that had been built at the start of a student loan company and had been built on. And really that's a barrier to sort of delivering the things that we wanted to deliver and meet those business objectives. So really at that point it was identified that we needed, quite a significant technology change in order to create that journey and make that happen. And so at that point, within SLC, within our architecture function, it was very key to set up an architecture roadmap and a vision that was very closely aligned with what the business were trying to do, and make sure that we were looking at bringing in the right technology to do that, and to move away, as I would imagine most companies are, in that let's not build everything, but buy and customize and do things that we need to do with the things that we buy and to deliver a great service. And it's that great service that we don't necessarily have any competition, but what we do need to do is make sure that we're accountable for the spending taxpayers' money. So that was really all about we need to invest. So we had this roadmap. We had looked at MuleSoft. We had all these the sort of decisions to let's move forward, and then in 2020 COVID hit. So, and if I take us back to the MuleSoft journey, the original plan for MuleSoft was to start to replace an old aging Oracle hub solution that we had in place. I'm not talking from personal experience, but from that I could see that would be the thing that you build that out. You build out that replacement. You reduce your technical debt that you've got through aging solutions, and you have an opportunity to build out your centre for enablement, build up your processes, and do all of that in maybe a bit more of a controlled way. But then COVID hit, and really there was a bit of a step change to say, well, actually what we really need to focus on is how do we deliver, how do we start delivering on our transform process to make use of Salesforce and MuleSoft and our other technologies to start to deliver that single customer interface to be able to self-serve. And so the switch at that point was to embark on our customer engagement management program, or CEM as we know it. So CEM phase 1 was the thing that we were looking at developing. So I think for me, what that then created was that we were delivering that functionality, which was great, but at the same time we were also looking at how do we build out the processes, the best practice, the standards, the governance, the automation, the pipeline to deploy. So we were kind of doing two things at the same time. And I think sometimes the functionality part was running ahead of the capability part. So I think that was one of the things that was challenging at that point. And I joined SLC in June 2021 when we were still in the delivery phase of that CEM phase 1, and we had quite a new team that we were starting to build that centre of excellence concept, and I think some of the things that we had to do there was we probably did a more of federated delivery model before we fully had the maturity in place. We had to think about when we were delivering standards and best practice. To some extent, it could be start off as an MVP version. So let's deliver this enough to get ourselves going on a just-in-time basis. But then that's where the power of the Centre of Excellence comes in that we then look to how do we sort of continually improve and understand and learn from new implementations about what we need to do, how we need to develop our processes, build in more automation, and so on. So I think, I'm saying there were a few challenges, but at the end of 2021 we started to deliver on the CEM project, and that did lay the foundations for where we've gone next.
Yeah, so in terms of your digital transformation strategy, at a high level, what did that look like? And also, Susan, your partnership with Salesforce and MuleSoft, how is that working practically?
Yeah, so I suppose MuleSoft is a real enabler for our delivering on our strategy, and it's one of these things. If you go off and speak to people in the business, it's not tangible. They can see things that Salesforce deliver. They can see things that are on an ECM system. MuleSoft is an enabler, so it's the thing that glues all these things together and makes them work. And And so basically, as part of delivering on that transformation journey, we can see MuleSoft being used in the following ways. So the first thing was that transformation. So delivering on the Salesforce interface, connecting with our other strategic systems, so Alfresco, Okta, delivering a new electronic payment gateway, which is the most important thing because that's the thing that pays our wages every month as well as many other things. So delivering on that transformation piece. Then the other thing is really about simplifying. So let's start to break down those monolithic systems and look at how we build reusable services, integrations, and that we can start to modularise those systems. And MuleSoft is playing its part there. So we've got lots of uplift projects, upgrade projects on the way dealing with that. And then there's also basically the other thing is the final thing is remediation. So how do we start to remove some of these old aging systems like Oracle Hub so that we can reduce our risk with unsupported software. And in the last year we've started our first phase of delivering on that. And so it's also about looking at how does MuleSoft help us with things like supportability, security, making sure everything we deliver is secure, and also things like disaster recovery, having robust plans in place. And I know Maureen gave me this feedback a few weeks ago. Maureen has the pleasure of meeting with our security people every week, and they actually said that they're so impressed with our team and the MuleSoft work because we keep on top of vulnerabilities and we're addressing things. So, I think if you look at also what we've delivered and incidents and issues that we might have in production, they're few and far between, and so I think that's the thing that's making a huge difference, really.
And you're not done yet?
No, not done.
Not done. So what would the goals be for the next 6 to 12 months, and how can you further leverage MuleSoft to help you achieve those?
And I didn't, was that final question I didn't speak about in this?
Oh, I don't know.
I think maybe, I'm just thinking.
We're coordinating our old school notes.
Yeah. Oh, no, I can talk about it in this one. So our journey started in 2020, and we started our first live deployments in December 2021 with the Chem Phase 1. And so as part of that, we've implemented MuleSoft, we've started off the Centres of Excellence, and we've also started delivering those first sets of APIs to support the customer engagement piece. And that means that students there's self-serve available to students. We've got a more joined up set of systems for our customers, for our customer service staff. We're looking at all the things that Salesforce can help provide to make that journey and happen, and to look at how do we kind of, to the point that I think one of the conversations we're talking about, having to look at 15 different systems to help answer a question. Those are things that we've got similar issues, and this is where building out on that technology will help us with that. We have used MuleSoft Advisory, and we've used MuleSoft Customer Success throughout our journey to implement the initial solution. Once that was implemented, when I joined, I had many sessions with customer success to see, to talk about our roadmap, to have a joint success plan, to look to see where MuleSoft could help with sessions. We had sessions on KPIs and on the best practices. And we also, we work with TCS as our strategic partner. So we are also leveraging the vast resources that TCS have to also help us make sure that we're doing the right thing within our maturing our centre of excellence. And to talk about that collaboration and partnership, earlier on this year we had a joint session with Salesforce, MuleSoft, TCS and people from the SLC Centres of Excellence, looking at how do we build out mature COEs. So, you know, we're doing that good collaboration and leveraging the use of our partners. We're also, this year, there are probably two really big pieces of work that we're doing. The first one is we're looking to build out on shared services and look at the capability we need to support that going forwards. And we've engaged with MuleSoft Advisory to help shape the things that we need to do and start building our roadmap. There's also the government initiative that we need to deliver of LLE, so that's lifetime learning enablement?
Lifelong learning.
Lifelong learning, that's it.
I've got it down here.
Yeah, and so basically... Alright, well, fingers crossed I can answer.
It's to do with composability.
So basically, that's what that's doing is saying every single person in the UK should have the ability to have an account really that they can draw down on, and they can do learning throughout their life, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a 3-year, 4-year university, college degree. It could be you know, drawing down on smaller courses. So that's something that we then need to look and see, right, how do we take all the things that we've got in place to do that typical customer journey for a student today, to put in place the support for LLE. So those are, and that's where we'll be looking at MuleSoft to help out there. And so just check. I've gone through everything. Yep. So I think those are the main things that we're looking.
Thank you so much. So there'll be people in this room who are considering embarking on this journey of digital transformation. What would your best advice be?
Like for embarking on this, so I suppose that there are probably a few things in that it's really, as much as possible, leverage the knowledge of others, try to build a community. I think people are the sort of mainstay to the success, building out that good central team, making sure people are empowered. I mean, there's lots of, I know we've used lots of information from MuleSoft, we've engaged with our partners, but there's lots of information there to look at playbooks and how do you set yourself up for success. And I think it's really important to create that roadmap that's challenging but achievable. Don't try to do too much at once. And also really to think about the fact that you won't get everything right first time, so it's about making sure you know, don't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah.
What do you learn and how do you take things forward? And it's really, it's not a sprint, it is a journey, and it's making sure as long as you can keep yourself moving, because I think sometimes a challenge for us has been to see, there's all these things we need to do, but if you try to do them all at once, you do nothing. So it's how do you move yourself forward in steps, and I think, you know, I maybe this is typically Scottish, but I always look at the things like, we haven't done this, we haven't done that, we haven't done the next thing. But actually, I was looking today and just trying to think about all the things that we've done since that first implementation, and you know, we're supporting Chem Phase 2, we've put in Okta, we're supporting GDPR, we're doing Uplift projects, we've got shared services, and actually from that standing start in 2021, we've got 83 APIs now in production.
Wow.
I was quite impressed with our reuse figure of 50%, but I'm now feeling quite ashamed of myself because that's been surpassed by the other things. But what we can see is that in June 2022 we were at 30%, and then 40 odd, and then 50. So we're moving in the right direction. So I think looking at the things that we've done, we've got a big journey still to go on, but actually. I think what we can see is that those foundations that were laid in the days of COVID to deliver on Chem have actually been solid foundations that we can build on.
Thank you so much. Thank you for attending. I think what's really important to note is actually, Vikram, you mentioned starting small and thinking big, and that's certainly in line with your advice there. Does anybody have a question for Susan?
One of the really nice things about listening to what Susan said today is, if you think back to Bruno and Corrado's presentations this morning, and you look at the fact that we're not just talking about technology, we're talking about the enablement of people, the enablement of an organisation, and that we're working towards particular business goals which are set by our customers. In the sales process, that's one of the things that we talk about. It's one of the things that we positioned ourselves to try to say, this is what's different about MuleSoft, this is what's different about Salesforce, because we're not just talking about the bits and bytes of some software, we're talking about the engagement of ourselves as an organisation with our customers to enable that customer success. And the great thing is, and if we can bring it out in the likes of the metrics that Vikram and Elise have spoken about, and by the way, 50% is actually very good going, and we'll talk about that in a second. I was supposed to have a question inside here. We'll get to that question in a second. But it is so lovely to see that, in actual fact, all the things that we talked about in a complex sales process over the 2, 3, 4 years that we've been working together now have actually come to fruition. The part of the part of student loans reality nowadays, and the part of that future, the future transformation, and the future services which they're going to deliver for the benefit of people in this country, young and old, because this is happily gets us to the lifelong learning question. Student loans are a public body. They're part of the Department for Education. They're also driven by Cabinet Office. Policy changes come because somebody in the DFE says, I've got an idea. We could better serve our citizens if we created a loan for lifelong learning in order that at whatever age, even mine, you could embark on a tertiary education career. That has implications for student loans because they have to deliver all that they have to deliver every year. Oh, and by the way, here's a great new idea. So when we look at something like your 50% reuse, the idea of the composable organisation which MuleSoft enables, with something like lifelong learning comes along, does MuleSoft, does Salesforce make this easier for you to I told you 10 minutes and we got to the question, does it make it easier for you to actually deliver?
Oh, absolutely. I think, and we can see this from not even the LLE, but other projects that we're doing, because these days you can't do anything at SLC without MuleSoft. MuleSoft is in there somewhere.
I love that.
But the amount of times that we're either reusing something or taking something and extending it, we're not reinventing the wheel every time. Now, one of the things that we haven't yet done is make sure we're extracting all those KPIs so that we can tell people about it, because, as I said, MuleSoft sits in the middle of everything, and it's, if you've got this nice swanky screen or some robots or some chatbots or whatever going on, that's visible to our business people, and MuleSoft isn't, and it's really important for us to say, when we took Chem Phase 2, actually we were just building on all those APIs we'd already built, a few new things but not that many, and it's so lifelong learning. Yeah, there's some challenges about, so this is how we've got our journeys, because you typically go school, university or college, get your loan, pay it back, and this is going to be then drawing back. People might have an account to see what's available to them and never use us. So there's lots of questions about how do we set ourselves up. but absolutely there will be aspects of Salesforce, aspects of MuleSoft that are there that can be reused. And I think that's, we're still going through that journey of some of our older systems that are powering things on the back end that are looking at how do they uplift, how do they make themselves more composable. And those are the things that are still, once we get all of those things finished, it will help SLC immensely. At the moment, we are still, we can maybe do this bit quickly, but actually there's all these changes that still need to go on.
That's everything that I would hope to hear in an answer. In fact, it's everything and more than I would hope to hear in an answer. As a sales guy, and as somebody in technology, you want what you do to be of some use. You want it to have some purpose, both for your customers and for society at large. And when you hear that, that's such a powerful message inside there.
You do yourself a slight disservice, because on every QBR I've ever been on, and every time I ever have any interaction with SLC, you're always there. You've been around right from the beginning, all the way through on the whole journey. That's a lot more than.
Well, it is, but I think it's one of the reasons why we get into this. It's why we choose public sector rather than necessarily financial services.
Sure.
Sorry, NAFS people in the room.
Question, if I can interrupt for a moment. I know you've been in financial services for a lot of your career, but now that you've joined the light side, do you find yourself with a new purpose getting up in the morning?
Good one.
Sometimes I have to say that it's been it's an experience. We'll confirm that. It's been for me. It's been a great opportunity to take. Because I have to say, I don't know what you push on MuleSoft to make it work. I know how to set up a COE. I've got good guys that can do all of that. I know a bit more about MuleSoft than I did when I started. But it's been great to start to build up that team. And it's sometimes crazy.
It's all about people.
It is. It's all about people.
All about the people.
But that is it. One of the things that Susan said when you came on board in the summer of 2022 was 21, sorry, was not to think of you as a technologist, but to think of you as somebody who sets an organisation up for success. Mm-hmm. Your whole COE thing, and that's central. It's central to Salesforce. It's central to what MuleSoft do inside here as well.
Well, that was a glowing recommendation. Thank you so much. I think one of the things that I was really keen to do when I stepped into role and was selected to lead MuleSoft for not just the UK and Ireland, but also Dach, was to ensure we went to the regions. So I live in North Yorkshire, but I'm actually based in London. And we, as a team, have started to roll out conversations across the counties and across the countries. We're in a series in Ireland now, 4 of 6, which is born out of this initial taster event today. So our hope and intent is that you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for your attention and your attendance today on such a warm one.